Hello, it is I, your boy Gomi, and we're going to be doing a review over the card coming up, and it's not going to be a UFC card because I already went over the main event of the UFC fight, which is Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. Already did a video on that when the fight was supposed to happen. Not going to do it again. And to be honest with you, I'm a little bit more excited for the Bellator card, and I'll actually be able to watch at a reasonable hour, unlike the Lewis Spivak card, which is at an ungodly hour. Not doing that. I mean, I probably will, to be honest with you. But regardless, this fight is a lot more interesting to me because it's going to be a legacy fight for the heavyweight title at Bellator for Fedor Emelianenko versus Ryan Bader. Now, this is more of an important fight because Fedor Emelianenko is honestly the greatest heavyweight of all time. People are going to say Cain Velasquez, Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, Daniel Cormier, even Brock Lesnar perchance, but they are not the greatest heavyweights of all time. It was always Fedor. He just never went to the UFC, and that's the problem. And the reason for that is his hatred of Dana. Fedor is always the one that got away, the one who never went to the UFC, and it's such a shame because he would have done amazingly well in the UFC. Because granted, while he is and never been in the UFC, he dominated Pride. He dominated in Bellator, and he did pretty good in Strikeforce. He did not. He did okay in Strikeforce. That was actually his weakest time, I feel. But regardless, we're going to be breaking into his rematch against Ryan Bader. This is going to be a hard one because he's already lost to Ryan Bader, and it was a decisive and brutal knockout. His odds are stacked against him. He's trying to get that heavyweight title and ride off in the sunset for his retirement fight. So, man, it's a fairy tale fight, but MMA is a cruel sport. So let's get into it. So these are going to be the statistics I have for the tail of the tape. Unfortunately, I don't have as much data as I normally do due to the fact that it's not on the UFC. It's not as easy to pull this all up, but I still have enough. So it's going to be the heavyweight title fight between Fedor Emelianenko and Ryan Bader. Fedor Emelianenko is going to be, Jesus Christ, 46 years old. Oh my God, that's old. He's going to also have a staggering record of 40 wins and 6 losses. Hey, that's funny. 40, 46, and 40 and 6. That's hilarious, actually. But oh my God, that's a staggering record, but a staggering age. Staggering amount of 16 KOs, 15 submissions. He's going to be 6 foot on the dot. Orthodox stance. 76-inch reach advantage. Now, I will be honest with you, I've seen conflicting sources for it. And then we all have his takedown average, significant strike average, which would be very hard to amass over multiple organizations because he's fought for at least 5 or 6 organizations. The odds are mixed up. Forgive that. He is the underdog. He is actually plus 190. Ryan Bader is in negative 250. Fedor is the underdog for this fight. He boasts significant wins over, which is Rampage Jackson, Chael Sonnen, Satoshi Ishii, and Andrei Arlovsky. I also didn't put Frank Mir in there, but the thing is, Fedor Emelianenko has a very, very insane record that I'll go over in a second. He's going to be facing Ryan Bader, the man who beat him last. Ryan Bader, he is going to be 39 years of age. He's not young either. He's also very old as well, too. He has a record of 30 wins, 7 losses. Pretty good record, too. 12 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's going to be 6'2" in terms of height, fighting out of the orthodox stance, 74-inch reach disadvantage. Don't have his takedown average or significant strike accuracy, but I can tell you right now, Ryan Bader leans a lot more towards the wrestling, while Fedor has always been leaning a little bit more towards the actual striking. But make no mistake, Fedor can strike and wrestle, and Bader can strike and wrestle. And then the odds, like I said, he's going to be a negative 250 favorite. He's had significant wins over recently Lyoto Machida, Rumble Johnson, Fedor himself, and Phil Davis. But he also has a very substantial record as well, too. So, getting into Fedor, because Fedor is the main star. He's the star of this. Even Ryan Bader said this is all about Fedor, but Ryan Bader said that he is the villain trying to steal what he is working for. Fedor Emelianenko, the last emperor. You may not know him. You might have been too young during that time. You might have not watched Pride. You might not have watched Strikeforce. You might not watch Bellator. You might not know him. But let's just look really quickly at the last emperors. Let's just look at his record. They have him listed as the number 7th greatest MMA fighter of all time, which is honestly very valid. He's fought in 4 organizations, but the main one where he spent most of his career was Pride. And if you have not watched his fights in Pride, oh man. Because a lot of people gave him criticism saying he didn't fight anyone in the UFC, so he's not the best. He didn't fight in UFC. Well, the thing is, he fought most fighters, like most predominant heavyweights from the UFC. He fought them in their prime, which is in Pride. A lot of people, they're going to look at people like Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman, Big Nog, Mark Hunt. Oh, there he is. Andrei Arlovsky. Fought him Affliction. That's weird. But yes, he fought a lot of these guys at their prime because they didn't come into the UFC in their prime. They did not. They came into their prime in Pride. And the thing is about Pride too, which I'm not going to get into, but there may have been a little bit of a sketchier under the counter things, like for example the no drug test rule. But we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into Pride like that. The main thing is he fought monsters. He also had really insane freak of nature fights where he fought people he honestly should not have been. Fought people way heavier and way bigger than him, like freak show fights. And he fought actual great fighters, like for example some people who you may not know that weren't UFC stars at the time you probably watched them. Gary Goodridge. Oh my god, Gary. Oh my god, Gary. But yes, Gary Goodridge. Do you know when Gary Goodridge fought? Do you know when he fought? I can tell you when he fought. He made his UFC debut in UFC 8. And oh man, he had some brutal knockouts. Like, oh god, that was a vicious one. That was also a bad one. Look at the time too. They didn't have time limits back then. But yes. Gary Goodridge was a beast back then, and Fedor just took him out, eliminated him fairly easily. He fought Mark Coleman. He fought Kevin Randleman. Look at that. Kimura, armbar, knockouts. He just has an insane record. Only person who took him decision that I really see here besides good old Crow Cop. I forgot about Crow Cop. Forgive me. How could I forget? But yes, Crow Cop was a beast with his kicks. Oh man, right leg cemetery, baby. Where's the left leg? Forgive me. But the thing is, his record is just insane. A lot of these people I mentioned, Crow Cop, Big Nog, Randleman. He also would eventually fight Rampage Jackson, Chael Sonnen, Frank Mir as well too. You know Frank Mir. Some of you may or may not know Frank Mir. You want to know who Frank Mir? Who had their debut against Frank Mir? I'll tell you who had their debut against Frank Mir. Yeah, that was Brock Lesnar's UFC debut, baby. At UFC 86. I got a little bit sidetracked, but the main thing is really Fedor Emelianenko is a veteran of the sport. He is absolutely a veteran of the sport who's been fighting for such a long time, and he's fought so many people. But the problem is it was UFC 81, by the way. But the problem with this, though, his age. He is old. He is 46. And then another even bigger problem is I'm going and gushing about Fedor. He already fought Ryan Bader, and he got knocked out brutally by Ryan Bader. Fedor Emelianenko is not what he once was. His chin is fairly shot because he would tank shots from some of the most vicious power hitters at heavyweight. He would go to wars after wars. While he does still have a very good striking acumen, and he honestly had some pretty good wins against Tim Johnson and Rampage Jackson. Rampage Jackson is aged to all heck. You know when Rampage Jackson fought? You know when Rampage Jackson had his prime? I'll tell you when I would watch Rampage Jackson. Good old Pride. Yep. Right here. This is it. That's it. Yeah, Rampage Jackson. Back in, when was that? 2003, I was watching him. I was watching his fights against Randleman, Chuck Liddell, and the Axe Murderer, Vanderlei Silva. Yeah, so that's Yeah, that's not an exactly a great win, but he did look very good. His striking was on point and he knocked them out. But that doesn't matter because Ryan Bader has power. He has so much power to him, even his age, because the power, that's the last thing that usually goes. That stays. You may be slow, you may be sluggish, you may have a shot chin, but man, if a heavyweight, an aged heavyweight could just launch that just bomb, and if you don't have a chin, you're getting knocked out. We've already seen it. He knocked out Brian Bader knocked out Fedor Emelianenko with a very looping hook, a looping left hook too. It wasn't even his dominant hand. Ryan Bader is very basic, especially in his older age. He's basically a wrestler with that big overhand right. He does have some good hooks occasionally, but that's it. He doesn't really have most of his submissions. It's pretty much gone at this point. It's really just, yeah. Like, because even then, he only really had like a big occasional rear naked choke, an armbar here or there. Now he's more of just a basic one-dimensional striker, but he still has that power to him. And he's not garbage. That's the one thing I like to mention too. Ryan Bader's actually very good with a pretty solid record. But yeah, he has wins over Czech Congo. That's not a great win. Czech Congo, also former UFC fighter. Lyoto Machida, Anthony Rumble Johnson. He's fought some UFC fighters as well too after UFC, and then again he used to fight in the UFC against other fighters such as Big Nog, Rashad Evans, Rumble, Phil Davis, OSP. He's fought some good, even Glover, Rampage. He even fought John Jones. That was a domination though, my god. But yeah, Ryan Bader, he's got a good record. He's got some good wins. He has a lot of experience, and he's the lesser age fighter. He is the fresher fighter. He has the power, and he has that win over Fedor. The only thing that I will say is sort of an X factor is he got really badly knocked out a few times since he beat Fedor. But against Vadim Nemkov, forgive my pronunciation. And then he had a really bad knockout to Corey Anderson. Those might wear on him. And he's had way more fights since fighting Emelianenko. So, that's an X factor. While Emelianenko, the last time he lost was against Bader, but he's only fought 2 times since then. So there's going to be some ring rust. It's been almost 2 years since... No, almost 3. Yeah, no, almost 2 years since Fedor has last fought. It's just a hard fight to call. It's really more so a legacy fight. I just hope it'll be a fun fight. I am rooting for Fedor. I do want him to ride into the sunset. That would be so nice if he could get that victory, grab that Bellator heavyweight title, and just leave, just bounce and ride off in the sunset, shooting off middle fingers to Dana White. But we know how this sport goes. We know it's not kind to the legends. We know it's not kind to the veterans. But let's just hope he goes out like Glover, if anything. That's the one thing I hope. Well, this has been your boy Gomi. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite fights of Fedor. Bye-bye.